Venice. The name conjures up images of romantic canals, singing gondoliers, and shimmering Gothic palaces. It's an impossible city, a civilization built not on solid earth, but literally on water. It has defied nature, war, and the tides for over a millennium. But peel back the tourist veneer, and you find one of the greatest and most insane engineering projects in human history. To understand how Venice floats, you have to understand why it exists in the first place. This wasn't a choice, it was an act of desperation. Starting in the 5th and 6th centuries, the Roman Empire was collapsing. As hordes of invaders, the Huns, the Lombards, swept across the mainland of Italy, the local Romanized populations did the only thing they could. They fled. Their sanctuary wasn't a hill or a fortress, but a series of desolate, muddy islands in a massive, shallow lagoon in the Adriatic Sea. It was a miserable, waterlogged swamp. Nobody sane would choose to live here. But that misery was their protection. The shallow, shifting waters made the islands impossible to attack for heavy cavalry, and the locals, who knew the hidden channels, had a perfect warning system. They were safe, but they had one monumental problem. How do you build a city in a marsh? This is the core of the Venetian secret. It's not magic. It's petrified wood and incredible patience. The bedrock of Venice is not stone, but soft mud and clay. To build a foundation, the Venetians first drove millions of dense, thick wooden piles called pali deep into the earth. They didn't stop until the piles hit the hard, compressed clay layer, which can be 50 to 100 feet down. For the Rialto Bridge alone, they used over 6,000 piles. For the Church of the Salute, over 1,000,000. Here's the genius. These piles, usually made of trees like alder or oak, are completely submerged in the salty, oxygen-poor mud. This lack of oxygen prevents bacteria from consuming the wood. The wood doesn't rot. Over centuries, the constant flow of mineral-rich water, specifically calcium carbonate, actually filtered through the submerged wood. This process slowly turned the poly into a rock-hard fossilized composite, in essence, stone. This is the solid footing beneath every Venetian palace. On top of the wooden foundations, they laid two crucial layers: thick wooden planking and then massive blocks of Istrian limestone. Istrian stone, sourced from the coast of modern-day Croatia, is almost completely non-porous and saltwater resistant. This stone is the barrier between the wooden base and the brick buildings above, protecting the foundation from the air and stopping the salt from climbing up the walls. With their floating foundation secured, the Venetians looked outward. They called their state the Serenissima, the most serene republic, and they were governed by a doge, or duke. Their unique position made them masters of the sea. They were the perfect bridge between Western Europe and the Byzantine East. This city of refugees became the center of the spice trade. Silks from China, spices from India, and gems from Egypt all passed through Venice, making it the richest city in Europe. They created the world's first modern banks, and their wealth funded magnificent palaces and breathtaking art. Their power was centered on the Venetian arsenal, essentially the world's first assembly line factory. At its peak, the arsenal could mass-produce an entire warship in a single day, cementing Venice's naval dominance for centuries. Venice was ruthless, independent, and fiercely protective of its maritime empire. It was a 1,000-year republic, a truly unique force in history. But nothing lasts forever. As new trade routes opened up around Africa in the 15th and 16th centuries, Venice's monopoly on eastern trade began to crumble. The final blow came in 1797, when Napoleon Bonaparte marched in and effectively abolished the 1,000-year-old republic. The floating city was conquered, changing hands between French and Austrian rule before finally joining unified Italy. Today, the threat is no longer invaders, but the very water that gave Venice life. The city is sinking due to natural land compression, and sea levels are rising due to climate change. The city now experiences extreme flooding, or Acqua Alta, far more frequently. The famous wooden piles that petrified centuries ago are now routinely threatened by the modern tide. The city's latest defense is the Mosey Project, a massive system of mobile flood barriers designed to protect the lagoon. It's an expensive, controversial, and high-tech response to a 1,000-year-old problem. From a desperate refuge built on wooden stilts, Venice became a dazzling empire that bridged the medieval and modern worlds. It stands as a testament not just to beauty, but to human resilience and one of the most brilliant feats of engineering ever conceived. It was impossible 1,500 years ago, and yet it still stands today.